Joining us right now, Hans von Spakovsky, formerly of the Justice Department and now with the Heritage Foundation, to talk about the president's brief announcement yesterday of what his intentions are with regard to executive action on guns. Good morning. Happy New Year, Hans.
Well, thanks. Happy New Year to you.
So here's a simple question. If Congress passes a law, any law, and a president signs it, let's say it was something from 20, 30 years ago, can a new president come in and just sign a document and do away with that law?
Well, no, obviously he can't. And it looks like that's exactly what they're going to try to do based on what the president said last night and this conference call that Valerie Jarrett had with reporters afterwards.
What's the rationale here? Is he saying, well, the background checks on these private sales, it's not explicitly laid out in detail in the law that covers background checks, therefore it's something that we can do through regulation. Is that the idea?
Well, that's what he's saying, but he's wrong about that. Look, what federal law says is, first of all, look, there is no gun show loophole. I mean, that is one of these myths that the media propagates, that the president propagates. If you're a gun dealer, you have to do background checks no matter where you sell your firearms, whether it's in your shop or at a gun show. What they're talking about are private sales by individuals who aren't in the business of doing this. So if I want to sell my gun to my brothers or acquaintances, I don't have to do an instant background check. They're now saying that they want to stretch the definition of a gun dealer, which is in federal law, to cover those kind of private sales. They can't do that. The law doesn't authorize them to do that.
Well, I mean, this is what I'm trying to figure out, because they say, like, if you have a table and you come to a gun show and maybe you only have a couple of guns you want to sell, you would still have to have a firearms license, right?
Well, that's what they're saying, but let me tell you what the statute says. The statute says that you're engaged in the business if it's your regular course of trade or business with the principal objective of livelihood and profit through it. In other words, this has to be your chief business. It doesn't include anybody who makes, and this is the exact language of the statute, occasional sales, exchanges, or purchase of firearms. So the fact that I get a table at a gun show because I want to sell the 5 guns that I inherited through my family does not automatically make me a dealer if that's not my principal livelihood.
All right, so here's the bottom line. The president says that the ideas that he's come up with, and it's a 10-point plan, there's some other stuff we'll get into in a minute, but this 10-point plan is going to make us safer. But how does that work? Because it seems to me what it does is it penalizes people who are already following the law and does nothing to get after the people who are flaunting the law.
Well, as usual, the president's ideology blinds him to the facts. Listen, the National Institute of Justice, that's the research arm of his own Justice Department. Look, they've done studies on this, and they show that less than 2% of the guns used in criminal violations of the law come from gun shows. And most of the guns sold at gun shows already have gone through instant background checks. So they're dealing with a trivial problem that is going to make no difference to the whole situation.
Yeah, and listen, the way I'm trying to argue this with my friends and colleagues, at the like most Americans who have to deal with people who are in favor of gun control on their Facebook page or in the cubicle next to them at work, is it doesn't even if this was a great idea and it would solve an upteen number of gun crimes, a president can't just rewrite the law, even if it's a good law. So let me go back to the last time the president tried to do this with regard to amnesty. We see that now stopped by a federal court and then an appeals court. Is that what it's going to take to stop this provision from going through, or can Congress preempt that instead of waiting for the judiciary? Can Congress do something?
Well, Congress could do something, but they already did something with the law they passed. Here's what's going to happen. The ATF is going to try to make some person who is not a dealer, but who decided to sell their family weapons at a gun show, they're going to try to go after them and say that you need to be a dealer, and they're going to end up in court over that, and the administration is going to lose.
Okay. But before that even happens, though, listen, setting aside the person who is selling the gun, I'm somebody who wants to buy a gun. I want to buy one of Brian's guns. Let's say Brian wants to sell his gun to me and I want to buy it. Do I have standing right now because I don't want to go through the background check that is now going to be implemented? Can I just preemptively go in right now and say, no, I'm suing you for that because of this new provision, this onerous burden on my Second Amendment rights?
Larry, I think you will be able to sue the ATF, which, by the way, is
O'Connor versus ATF. Let's do it, Hans.
Hey, I know some lawyers would be interested in that.
The other part of this is apparently there are some provisions here that are designed to keep the hands out of people who might be mentally ill. And on its surface, again, that sounds like a good idea. But apparently this is going to be sort of managed, as I understand it, by perhaps the Social Security Administration?
Yeah, that's right. And all you have to do is Google it, and you can quickly find reports on how many fraudulent disability claims the Social Security Administration processes and doesn't catch, and yet we're going to want them to be deciding whether or not you get to buy a gun.
Yeah. That's a great point. And by the way, there's also this whole thing where they're going to the no-fly list, or more accurately, the terrorist watch list, which is a much different list. We spoke with your former colleague at the Justice Department, J. Christian Adams, yesterday on Drive at 5, and he said that he was on that list for a while there. I guess they confused him with the jihadist. The J stands for jihadist in J. Christian Adams. But is the president actually going to try to attempt to put that into play as well? Well,
they didn't say anything about that last night. If they try to do that, then they are really going to have problems because, as you know, the procedures for getting on that list are completely hidden, and there's no due process. There's no ability to appeal it and try to get off of it.
Yeah, you'll just be on a secret threat list, and then you won't be able to exercise your Second Amendment right.
Yeah, that'll be hard.
All right, Hans von Spakovsky, Heritage Foundation is where you find him these days after he had to work in the Justice Department. Thanks for joining us, Hans.